Simon has mixed feelings about his dad, who's a Jewish psychiatrist with multiple partners. When his folks go on vacation, Simon starts a flirtatious game with his dad's lover, and things get messy within the family. The story starts with a young boy named Simon, who lived with his girlfriend, Fabian. Both of them were cartoon artists and lived together to get away from their disapproving families, most of whom were doctors and didn't appreciate their artistic side. On Simon's father's 60th birthday, Simon decided to bring Fabian to meet his family as they began their journey. Simon had been away for 6 months and returned home for the party. At the party, Simon met several family members, all of whom were doctors, even though it was unexpected. He became intrigued by a mysterious woman at the gathering, but couldn't recognize her. Later, he found out that she was involved with his father and worked as his secretary. Simon's father, Carl, was a psychiatrist known for frequently changing romantic partners, even turning some of his patients into secretaries and then into romantic partners. Simon's mother was deeply troubled by her marriage situation and didn't approve of her husband's infidelity despite being married. However, she can't do anything about the situation because she works under Carl and feels like she has to put up with it. After the party, Simon's mother tells him about Carl's new secretary, Sonia, who is the same woman Simon had noticed earlier. She informs him that his father plans to go on a trip with Sonia, a trip that could spell the end of their marriage, which worries her. Simon's mother asks him to fill in for her at the clinic so she can join Carl on the trip and spend some quality time with him. If not, Sonia would take her place, likely resulting in the end of their marriage. Simon reluctantly agrees to help his mother. Consequently, Carl is forced to bring his wife along on the trip, leaving Simon alone with Sonia at the clinic. At the clinic, Sonia and Simon sit together. She expresses her frustration, saying that if Simon hadn't stepped in for his mother, she would have gone on the trip with Carl, believing it would have strengthened their relationship. However, Simon doesn't pay much attention and casually mentions that his father has many girlfriends, which is normal for him. Sonia takes a moment to think, and once they are inside the house, she tells Simon that their relationship isn't like that. She informs him that he doesn't know anything about them and asks him to keep his opinions to himself. Upon hearing this, Simon assumes that Sonia and his father are deeply involved in a relationship, so he decides to leave. The next day, Simon overheard Sonia talking on the phone. He noticed she mentioned her family and children, expressing her frustration about having nothing and asking the other person not to waste her time. Simon realized that, even though his father was on a trip with his mother, he was still in contact with Sonia, the person she spoke to on the phone. Simon and Sonia were given the task of transcribing Carl's recorded lectures and interviews into written text, which was quite challenging and exhausting for both of them. One day, Sonia confided in Simon that his father loved her and openly declared his love to others. However, despite being in a relationship with Sonia, he was enjoying holidays with his wife. Sonia became emotional and started crying, revealing her unsettled feelings and desire for a family by going on a trip with Simon's father and marrying him. Simon, thinking his father was in the wrong, offered her tissues and tried to comfort her in her emotional state. Surprisingly, Sonia kissed him, but Simon pulled away, realizing the complexity of their actions. He stepped outside, deep in thought about what he was doing. He understood that he couldn't get closer to Sonia because his mother had entrusted him with the responsibility of keeping her away from his father. Simon felt trapped in the complicated dynamics of his family. Fabian informed him that they had a cartoon show in 2 weeks, but no preparations had been made because Simon was preoccupied with family matters. The next day, Simon felt the need to apologize to Sonia for their previous encounter. She didn't seem bothered by it and assured him it was no big deal. Simon, however, asked her to keep it a secret from his father. Sonia then confided in Simon that she had already informed his father about seeing someone else after him, but she hadn't disclosed Simon's name. She admitted to doing this to disrupt his father's trip. This piqued Simon's curiosity about Sonia, especially since he had to spend more time with her. After Sonia left, Simon began searching for more information about her. Knowing that Sonia had been his father's patient, he he decided to look for her medical records. Eventually, he found her file, which revealed that Sonia had a history of suicidal tendencies and had been treated by his father. Simon held on to the files, but the following day, Sonia discovered they were missing. Her files were confidential, shared only between her and Carl, so their disappearance alarmed her. She started searching for them and eventually found them in Simon's possession. Panicking, Sonia rushed to a room, attempting to hide her emotional distress from everyone, though Simon was already aware of it. Simon approached the room where Sonia was in tears and tried to take the files back. Unexpectedly, Sonia turned and kissed him. This time, Simon couldn't resist and kissed her back passionately. Sonia stopped him and suggested they move to the basement to avoid being caught. As Sonia opened the door, they found her clinic staff waiting, ready to give her instructions. Simon quickly hid behind the door after everyone left. Sonia then led Simon to the basement room. Simon didn't quite understand what was happening because his initial purpose was to keep Sonia away from his father. However, he found himself falling in love with Sonia. She led him into a room and their attraction intensified. Simon couldn't resist, and they ended up being intimate. Afterward, Sonia suggested he get into her car and she would drop him off at his house. Simon complied, and she drove him near his house. But before he could leave, Sonia invited him to visit her sometime. Simon agreed, sharing a kiss with her and promising to see her in the future. On his way home, Simon spotted Fabian at a restaurant with one of her friends. When he approached her, Fabian revealed they were preparing for a cartoon festival in a few days and needed assistance. Simon wasn't thrilled about Fabian being close to someone else. He eventually confessed to Fabian that he had been intimate with Sonia, which infuriated her, leading her to leave him. Shortly after, Simon received a text from Sonia, inviting him to her apartment the next day. He went to see her, and after some conversation, they started kissing and became intimate once again. Afterward, Sonia prepared dinner, and they chatted while eating. The next morning, Simon realized that Sonia had gone to the market and discovered a picture of Sonia with his father, indicating that his father had given his apartment to Sonia. Suddenly, Carl, his father, arrived after enjoying his vacation and was surprised to see Simon there. When Simon questioned his father about his presence, Carl revealed that he owned the apartment and was there to retrieve a book. Carl also disclosed to Simon that Sonia desired a child, but he couldn't provide one because he had undergone a vasectomy surgery. In the midst of their conversation, Sonia arrived and ignored Carl, instead choosing to kiss Simon. Sonia asked Simon if he had slept well, leaving a strange smile on his face. Carl told Simon that he had nothing to do with their relationship, but mentioned that he could inform Simon's mother about it. Simon later spoke to his mother, who was shocked to learn about his relationship with Sonia. She blamed herself, but eventually accepted the situation, realizing there was no use in dwelling on the past. A few days later, Sonia gave birth to Simon's child, as Carl had been sterile during his relationship with her. Sonia now had an apartment from Carl and a baby from Simon, but she still asked for Simon's love. She lived with Simon and his family, and she entrusted her baby to Simon. He looked at the baby and felt a moment of happiness, but remained confused about how his life had become entangled with his complex family's network compared to a year ago with Fabian. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and stay connected with us.